Joining me now from Louisville, Kentucky is Jianhua Zhao with the University of Louisville. He's associate professor in the Department of Anthropology. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
So 16 Chinese designers presented at the recent New York Fashion Week. Talk to us about the evolution and the desire for Chinese designers to show the world their talents.
Well, Chinese fashion designers came to the scene, I would say just about 15 years ago. Before that, you have very much Chinese manufacturers are making clothes for the Western world. But today, Chinese designers are not only designing clothes for the Chinese citizens, but are increasingly for celebrities around the world. So
how much influence does Chinese culture play in the designs and the fabric choices of these designers?
I think it plays a significant part. Initially, I think a lot of designers believe that what is national, it will be international. So designers try to define themselves, kind of searching their roots and in order to search for their own identity. But increasingly, I think Chinese designers are becoming more confident about themselves, about Chinese culture. So they are kind of looking for traditional Chinese culture for inspiration. The patterns and colors and motifs are not as loud as before. Rather, it's much more nuanced and sophisticated, and which obviously is also more appealing to consumers both in China and around the world.
And what kind of impact are Chinese designers having on the global fashion industry?
Chinese designers, for example, there are a couple of really well-known designers. They have becoming more like a routine, doing routine shows in Paris and around the world too. For example, Guo Pei became very well-known, and Lawrence Xu is also especially this year, and his show became very well-received. And then you have other designers became very well known, such as Ma Ke, because China's first lady, who during her first debut tour, overseas tour, worn a Ma Ke accessory brand, Ma Ke's brand, which became a big catalyst, not just for Ma Ke, I would say, for Chinese fashion on the world stage as a whole.
And at what point do you think we'll see a majority of clothing made in China turn into designed in China?
I would say that point, that's actually, there's a little bit kind of nuanced contribution by the Chinese fashion industry to the world fashion. That started, I would say, since 1994. Since 1994, China became the largest exporter of garments to the world. And what people don't know is that for the export of garments, people typically think of China as like a garment factory, making clothes for Western brands. But in fact, when Western designs sent it to China, there's typically a back and forth. Sometimes Chinese designers would contribute their own sample clothing, their own designs, which would be chosen by Western brands as well. So I would say, actually, it started a long time ago, but it's just now that Chinese fashion designers are bursting on the world fashion stage, especially in, say, on the stage of New York Fashion Week or Paris Fashion Week. And people are paying more attention to that.
Indeed, they are. Jianhua Zhao, thank you for joining us.